She sat under soft cafe lights, latte in hand, and smiled as if the weight of the world had shifted, just slightly, off her shoulders. Nikki Garcia, known for her charisma in the ring and her openness in front of cameras, has never shied away from sharing the vulnerable parts of her journey. But lately, that journey has taken an unexpected turn, one filled with quiet rediscovery and hesitant beginnings. When news of her separation from Artem Chigvintsev made headlines, the public reaction was a mix of surprise and sympathy. They had been one of those couples people rooted for, not because they were perfect, but because they were real. But behind the Instagram snapshots and polished red carpet moments were private challenges that neither could navigate forever. Now, several months removed from the emotional turbulence of a divorce, Nikki has begun to dip her toe into the dating world again. She didn't plan it. She didn't even think she was ready. But life, as it often does, nudged her forward. "I've been on a few dates," she admitted, with that signature blend of honesty and self-deprecating charm. It's been interesting. Interesting for Nikki meant learning how to have conversations again that weren't rooted in shared parenting schedules or emotional labor. It meant realizing she could laugh, genuinely laugh, with someone who hadn't seen her cry on a bathroom floor. It meant feeling attractive again, not just as a public figure or a mom, but as a woman. She wasn't looking for love, and she made that clear. Each date was more of an exploration than a pursuit. She was meeting people over coffee, not cocktails. Conversations focused on books, travel, and the strange dance of being 30-something and vulnerable again. But even with some pleasant surprises along the way, Nikki chose to stop. The dates ended not because she wasn't enjoying herself, but because she began to see a pattern she couldn't ignore. "I realized I was trying to prove something," she said, "to myself, to the world, that I was okay, that I could still attract, still charm, still feel desired. But I wasn't doing it for the right reasons." It was a moment of clarity that came not in a dramatic argument or tearful confession, but in the middle of a laugh with a man she barely knew. She noticed how disconnected she felt, even in the presence of someone kind and thoughtful. Her mind kept drifting to her son, to her work, to memories that still had unresolved edges. She wasn't ready. And for Nikki Garcia, admitting that was a form of strength. It meant stepping off the fast-moving carousel of rebounds and romantic expectations. It meant sitting still with herself, not because she had to, but because she finally wanted to. She spoke candidly about the grief that lingers even after the public has moved on. Divorce, she explained, isn't a clean break. It's a slow peeling away of futures imagined, of habits built, of identities merged. It's mourning a life you thought you'd live, and learning to breathe again in a life you didn't expect. "Artem and I will always be connected because of Matteo," she said, referring to their young son. "And I want to honor that connection. But I also need to honor myself, the woman I am now, not the woman I was in that marriage." Part of that process has been learning to enjoy her own company again. Mornings that once felt lonely now feel peaceful. She journals. She takes long walks. She's been reading more, mostly memoirs by women who also found themselves at unexpected crossroads. One book in particular stuck with her, a story about rebuilding a life not after tragedy, but after transformation. The kind of story that doesn't get a happy ending wrapped in a bow, but instead offers space, open and uncertain. That's where Nikki is now. Not rushing into the next relationship, but rebuilding her own narrative. The public might still see her through the lens of fame, but her days are filled with quieter victories. Showing up for her son, saying no when it matters, rediscovering her strength not through others' admiration, but through her own reflection. She isn't closing the door on love. Far from it. But she's changing the locks, setting new boundaries, asking better questions, trusting her instincts. "When the time is right," she said, "I'll know, and it won't feel like I'm performing. It'll feel like I'm home." Until then, she's embracing the space between chapters, not as a pause, but as part of the story.